Listen to me, listen closely to me. Listening is the process of taking what you hear and then mentally organising it so you're able to make sense of it. The act of listening demands your attention, concentration, and above all else, your effort. There are many advantages to having strong listening skills. I've got a few on the slide there, and there's a couple more in the book, but I want to touch on a few specifically. One here around promotes problem solving abilities. By listening to different opinions, listening to what your clients want, your team members want, you're able to start to put together an overall picture. And it's going to help you start to solve the problem because you see different parts that you hadn't seen before. Another one here around helps you evaluate messages. So as things are coming across, you might miss little bits because you're not listening intently. What is it they're saying? What is it that they're not saying that you can help start to tease out and understand? It increases the self-esteem of the speaker. If you're actively listening, nodding your head, going, asking questions back at them, they feel like what they're saying is important and you want to listen to them and they're saying something that's worth being heard. It helps you understand and retain information. By paraphrasing, by asking questions, by saying, oh, do you mean this? You start to understand the information in more depth and you're starting to understand what is going on. And really it allows you to help others to be able to achieve the organisational goals. Listen, there are many causes of ineffective listening, and we've all been guilty of many of them. The first one there around assuming a topic's going to be boring. If I started saying, okay, today we're going to be talking about sub-Saharan beets in Africa and how we grow them. For those of you who aren't interested in farming, beets, or Africa, you're automatically going to start turning off and just assume the topic's going to be boring and not listening to it to begin with. Second there, allowing speakers' mannerisms to overpower the message. So whatever mannerisms, annoying thing that they do, whether it's clicking the pen, playing with their ring, or just saying all the time, it overpowers the message and you're listening out for those things. So counting how many times your lecturer says poor concentration. So if you're not fully in there, in the moment, listening to what's going on, the poor concentration is going to affect your listening. Now, we know that young people, when I'm talking young as I'm talking kids, do have poor concentration. It's something that you develop as you age. So making sure that you are working on that. Poor comprehension of the material. You need to understand what's going on. So if someone's starting to talk at a level that's up here and your understanding is really down here, there's going to be a difference in that sort of comprehension and how they can talk about the topic. And finally, passive listening, just sitting there nodding, not really taking in what's going on and what's being said by the speaker. Poor listening behaviours lead to ineffective listening, but they're not always the listener's fault. So I talked there about that lack of context, lack of background that the listener might have. As far as speakers concerned, what if the message is too lengthy? What if this video was 20 minutes and the message I was getting across is going to be lost then because there's only going to be bits and pieces that you're going to be taking away? What if the message doesn't lack impact? What if it is monotonal and boring and you're not getting what you need to get across? Unless there is about that impact that it's having, that really strong message of this is what you need to take away from this conversation, the listener isn't always going to be able to understand the key messages. Other things that we do that affect our listening, rehearsing the next line. Think about all those times where you sit there and go, oh, I know what I'm going to say back to this argument, and you craft that perfectly. So when it comes to your turn, you say it, but really you haven't listened to the second half of that argument. Whether that's poor habits, passive or lazy. The book by Archie, they've got a good section on that, so make sure you read that up. Listener attitudes and needs. And the main one I want to focus on here is that managers often fail to listen due to internal mental competition. So as a manager, you're going to be looking at multiple different projects. And so when someone comes up to you and tries and tells you about what's going on with one, it might not be your top priority. You might be thinking about project A, project B, when really the speaker here wants you to think about project C. So making sure that if you're a manager, being able to sit there and actively listen and think about what they're saying. And if you're the speaker, making sure that the message is not too lengthy, it has that clear impact, and that the listener understands the background and context of what you're saying to ensure that you are getting your message across.